Let me tell you about a Tuesday. Not a Monday. Mondays in this courtroom are chaos, everybody dragging themselves in like they can't believe the weekend ended. Not a Friday either, when people are already halfway somewhere else in their heads. Tuesday. The kind of day that doesn't apologize for itself. The kind of day that just is. I'd been on the bench since 8 in the morning. We'd already seen a man who owed $300 in parking fines and tried to pay with a check from an account he admitted, right to my face, had been closed since February. We'd seen a woman who brought her landlord to court over a noise complaint, except the noise turned out to be her wind chimes, which the landlord had complained about first. We sorted that out. We always sort it out. By 11 o'clock, I'd had 2 cups of coffee that tasted like they'd been brewed sometime during the previous administration, and my clerk, God bless him, kept sliding cases across the bench to me with that look. He gets the look that says, "This one's interesting, Judge." He has a gift for that. 40 years I've been doing this, and I still trust that look. The name on the docket was Amara. I'll call her Amara. That's not her real name, but the details of what she looked like when she walked through that door, I won't change those. She was maybe 19 years old. 19 going on 40, the way some young people carry themselves when life has asked them to grow up faster than it should have. She was wearing a blue sweater, the kind that looks like it was bought with intention, not expensive but chosen. Her hair was pulled back. She carried a backpack that had a small American flag pin on one strap and what I think was a library card tucked into the outside pocket. She walked to the podium the way people walk when they know they've done something wrong and they're not going to pretend otherwise. I respect that more than almost anything. Amara, I said, looking at the file. Yes, Your Honor. You know why you're here today? The parking ticket, Your Honor, and the 2 after it. 3 tickets. I looked at the dates. They were spaced about 3 weeks apart. Same block, same general area near the university. The fines with penalties had climbed to just under $400. For a lot of people who come through here, $400 is painful but survivable. For others, it is a mountain. I looked at her again. Tell me about yourself, I said. Now, I know some judges don't do this. I know some of my colleagues think the bench is a place for facts and law and nothing else, and I understand that position, I do. But I have never believed that justice lives only in the statute books. Justice lives in context. A number without a story is just arithmetic. I'm not an accountant. I'm a judge. She blinked like she hadn't expected the question. I'm a junior at the university, she said. Biochemistry, pre-med track. Pre-med, I repeated. All right, how are your grades? The question surprised her enough that something shifted in her face, not embarrassment, but something close to it. A kind of vulnerable pride in the way people look when you ask them about something they've worked very hard at and they're not sure they're allowed to be proud of it yet. I have a 4, Your Honor. The courtroom made a sound, not loud, just that particular murmur that a room full of people makes when something registers. My clerk looked up from his papers. Even the officer standing near the door seemed to straighten slightly. A 4, I said, in biochemistry. Yes, sir. I leaned back in my chair. I've been leaning back in this chair for a long time, and I like to think I know what it means when I do it. It means I'm thinking. It means what's in front of me deserves more than a rubber stamp. Where are you from originally? I asked. I was born here, she said, but my mom came from Eritrea. My dad is from here, but he passed when I was 12. There it was, 12 years old, father gone. A mother who crossed an ocean to give her children a life, and a daughter who responded to all of that by going to a university and getting a perfect grade point average in one of the hardest majors they offer. Your mother? I said, is she working? She works at a hotel, housekeeping. She does double shifts on weekends. Does she know you're here today? The pause was about 2 seconds long. In a courtroom, 2 seconds of silence is an eternity. No, Your Honor. Why not? Because she would worry, and I didn't want her to worry. I want you to hold on to that for a moment. A 19-year-old girl standing in municipal court with $400 of fines hanging over her head, and her primary concern is not the money, not the record, not what this might mean for her future. Her primary concern is that her mother, who is probably on her feet right now changing sheets in a hotel downtown, should not have one more thing to carry. That's not nothing. That is, in fact, everything. Let's talk about the tickets, I said. 3 of them, same area, different dates. What's going on over there? Why do you keep parking in the same spot? She straightened slightly. There's a lab, she said. It runs late. The university lot closes at 10, and the lab sometimes goes until midnight. The other legal parking is a 15-minute walk, and last winter, when I was walking back alone at midnight, she stopped. It didn't feel safe. Did you report that to the university? I submitted a form, she said. I'm still waiting to hear back. I have been a judge for 4 decades. In 4 decades, you hear a lot of things. You hear excuses that are paper thin. You hear stories that are constructed like movie sets, impressive from the front, nothing behind them. And then you hear something that is simply, plainly, irrefutably real. A young woman alone at midnight on a winter street, deciding that a parking ticket was a safer outcome than the alternative. You were protecting yourself, I said. I was trying to, she said quietly. I looked at the file again. No prior record, no history in this court. This wasn't someone who had treated the law as a suggestion. This was someone who had made a hard choice between 2 bad options and had chosen the one that kept her safe. Now, let me tell you something about what I think justice is and is not. Justice is not the blind application of penalties. The law gives me discretion for a reason. The reason is that human beings are not spreadsheet entries. Every person who stands at that podium came from somewhere. Every person has a story that exists before and after the 30 seconds they spend in front of me. My job, the most important part of my job, the part that no law school prepared me for because you cannot teach it, is to see that story. I have seen people come through here who had every advantage and threw it sideways. I have seen people come through here who were handed almost nothing and built something remarkable from it. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the most important thing I can do is look at what someone is building and make sure the machinery of the court doesn't accidentally knock it down. Amara, I said, you know that these tickets are legitimate. The city posted the signs. The regulations are what they are. Yes, Your Honor, I know. And you understand that not knowing the rule or disagreeing with it is not a legal defense. I understand. Good. I paused. Because I'm not going to dismiss these tickets on the basis that the rule was wrong. I'm going to do something different. I can see it holding very still. I'm going to dismiss all 3 fines. I said, on the condition that you walk out of here, go back to that university, and you keep that 4. The murmur in the room this time was different, warmer. Your Honor, she started, I'm not finished, I said, but not unkindly. I also want you to go back to that lab and to whatever administrator is sitting on that form you submitted, and I want you to be persistent. Not rude, not demanding, persistent. You advocate for yourself the way you've clearly been advocating for your education. You understand? Yes, sir. And when you're a doctor, and you will be a doctor, I have no doubt about that, you're going to remember that the people who come to you with problems also have stories. You're going to look at the whole person, not just the symptom, not just the file, the whole person. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, very carefully, my mom always says that. Well, what do you say to that? I'll tell you what I said. Your mom sounds like a remarkable woman. She is, Your Honor. Tell her a judge said so. The room laughed. Not the sharp, nervous laughter that sometimes breaks tension in a courtroom, the genuine kind. The kind that means people have witnessed something that made them feel better about the world for a few minutes. Amara picked up her backpack. She thanked me. She thanked the officer near the door, which I noticed. She walked out through those double doors with the same purposeful step she'd walked in with, except that something had shifted, something in the set of her shoulders, something lighter. My clerk handed me the next file. I took a sip of the terrible coffee. People ask me sometimes, they stop me at events, or they write letters, or they pull me aside at church and they ask me, Judge, what do you think's wrong with the system? And I tell them the truth, which is that I think the word system is part of the problem. Systems don't have wisdom. Systems don't have mercy. Systems don't know that a 19-year-old girl parked illegally because midnight on an empty street in winter was dangerous. System C, violation, fine, penalty. People have wisdom. People have mercy. People, if they're doing their jobs right, understand that the law is a tool, and like any tool, it can build something or it can damage something, depending on the hands that hold it. I did not go to law school so I could be a human rubber stamp. I went because I believed, and I still believe after 40 years, that there is something worth protecting in the idea that a person stands before a court and gets to be seen, not just processed, seen. Amara was seen that Tuesday. I hope she felt it. I want to tell you about something that happened about 4 months after that Tuesday, because the story, as it turns out, wasn't finished. I got a letter. I get letters sometimes. It's one of the small privileges of this job, one of the things that makes the bad days bearable. This one was handwritten on plain white paper in careful, deliberate script. It was from a woman. She didn't give a last name. She said she was writing on behalf of her daughter, who had appeared in my court earlier in the year. She said her daughter had come home that day and told her what happened, and that she, the mother, had cried. Not because of the fine, not because of the ticket, but because someone in a position of authority had looked at her daughter and said, "I see what you're building. I'm not going to be the thing that stops it." She said that in her home country, she had not always had reason to trust the people in positions of authority. She said that coming to America, she had tried to teach her children to respect the law, to work within it, to believe that it could be fair. But belief, she wrote, is not the same as evidence. Belief requires proof. "You were the proof," she wrote, "for my daughter and for me." I read that letter 3 times. Then I folded it and put it in my desk drawer, where I keep the things that remind me why I come in every morning and drink that terrible coffee and listen to every single story that walks through those double doors. Here is what I want you to take from this, not just the story of one girl with a 4, but the larger thing underneath it. We are living in a time when a lot of people feel like the institutions that are supposed to serve them have forgotten they exist, and I understand that feeling. I see it in this courtroom every single day, the way some people flinch when they walk up to the podium bracing for something, the way others come in with their arms already crossed, expecting to be disappointed. That breaks my heart every time, because I believe in what this building represents. I believe in what the word justice means at its root before it became a talking point or a slogan or a hashtag. Justice at its root means rightness. It means the right outcome for the right reasons. It means looking at what is actually in front of you and responding to the full truth of it, not just the parts that are easy to quantify. Amara's tickets were real, her GPA was real, her mother's sacrifices were real, the dark street at midnight was real, all of it was real, and all of it mattered. My job was to hold all of it at once and find the right response. Some days I get it right. Some days, if I'm honest with myself, I wonder. But I keep showing up, because the alternative, a courtroom that processes people like packages on a conveyor belt, is something I am not willing to accept. Not on a Tuesday, not on any day. When people ask me what I've learned after 40 years on this bench, I usually disappoint them, because they're expecting something quotable, something you could put on a poster, and I don't have a poster answer. What I have is this: the most dangerous assumption in any position of power is that you already know what something is before you've fully looked at it. A file comes across my desk and it says 3 violations, $400 unpaid, and a lesser version of me, a tired version, a burned out version, the version of me that didn't sleep well and has had 2 bad cups of coffee, looks at that file and thinks he knows what he's seeing. He doesn't. He's seeing a data point. He's not seeing a person. The person arrives at the podium in a blue sweater with a library card in her backpack, and a mother at home folding sheets in a hotel, and a lab that runs until midnight, and a fear of dark streets, and a grade point average that should make every single person in this city proud. That's what arrived at my podium on that Tuesday. And I think about that sometimes when the cases pile up and the coffee gets cold and the day feels long. I think, what if I just processed it? What if I looked at the number and not the person? I would have collected $400 for the city of Providence, and I would have missed everything that mattered. She's still in school, as far as I know, still working toward that medical degree. Somewhere in a lab, late at night, probably, doing the kind of work that I couldn't begin to understand, proteins and molecules and the chemistry of the human body. And I hope, wherever she is right now, that she knows she was seen. That's all any of us want, really, to be seen, to stand before something larger than ourselves and have it look back and say, yes, I see you. I see what you're carrying and what you're building and who you are. That's justice, not the word, the thing itself. Court is adjourned.